Like being single sucks.
Because a person doesn't make you happy.
Preparing for the promise that I don't see.
No good thing will he withhold from them who walk uprightly. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing today? Have you adjusted to daylight saving time? We're just talking about that. I think this is the last year we're going to have to make some of these changes. I hope that you're doing well. I'm happy to see that it's sunshiny outside. A little cold in Gainesville today, which was unexpected, but I'm still happy to be here. I hope that you are well. You know what time it is. Get your pulse check in, and it's in the chat. What is the longest that you've had to wait on God to answer a prayer, and did you wait well? Tonight, our topic is single and tired of waiting, and we have a great conversation that's going to happen today. But again, if this is your first time here, I am Lorraine Edwards, the co-founder of A Single Mission, a business ministry that exists to engage, encourage, and empower single women to embrace their singleness, walk in their purpose, and prepare for the partner they desire. I am happy to have you here. Once again, you are the people that will get this message out. We are looking to impact 10,000 women this year. And so I need you to like, share, comment, subscribe, tell all your friends about it, and let them know that we are here. So I want to see some comments in the chat. What is the longest that you've had to wait on God to answer a prayer? Well, I'm going to start and say my answer is 22 years and counting. So we're talking about being single, but you have to wait on other things too. But that's the main thing we're going to focus on today. And since I've been single my whole adult life, which I don't start counting until you're 21, it's been 22 years. So let me know in the comments, how long have you been waiting for God to answer a specific prayer? Well, today, hey, Susan, always a pleasure to see you here. I got something in store that I'm going to share later on that I think you will appreciate. So we have another love story. This is involving waiting, and I've invited some special people to join me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but these are my friends. I'm going to let them tell you about themselves, but these are my friends, Pastor Ben and his wife, Raquel. Hi, how are you?
Hey.
Hi.
Doing all right?
Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
All right. HD Fancy Free says 6 years and counting. She's been waiting for a prayer to be answered. Well, today we're going to talk to them about, so we're going to take that off. Is it still on? Oh, okay. And we are going to first let them introduce themselves officially, and then we're going to jump into their story.
All right. Well, hey, guys. My name is Ben Curette, and I am the pastor here in Gainesville, Florida. So that's how I know Lorraine. I'm your pastor, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for about 2 years now. And before that, did the whole stereotypical Adventist pastor thing. Went to Southern for theology, Andrews for the seminary, and then here. And I grew up in Orlando.
Hi, my name is Raquel, married to Ben. I am also from Orlando. I grew up there, but I was born in Brazil. Orlando has always been my home. And yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm a big fan of Brazil, and I have many friends from there. So that just made me like you even more when I found that out. So I'm going to frame this. A few weeks ago, the pastor, he always tells a story before he preaches his sermon. And he was talking about his dating life. And it was very interesting. And afterwards, I was like, I have to talk to you. And later I said, I don't know if Raquel's going to agree to this, but I would really love for you to come on and share your story because it fits in with this topic of waiting. And so I'm going to ask you, Raquel, if you can start and just give us kind of an airplane view, if you will. Pastor loves airplanes, so an airplane view of kind of your dating life and like how you chose who to date before we got to the shift.
Yeah. So I grew up going to public school my entire life. And so growing up at my Brazilian church back home in Orlando, we didn't really have many Adventist guys that were my age group. So either they're a little too old or too young.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only guys I really dated were the ones in high school, so public school. So obviously in my head, like I knew, like I don't see myself marrying you. It's kind of just like that high school fling where it lasts like 3 months, 4 months, because all my friends have boyfriends, like, oh my gosh, I have a small crush type of thing. But as soon as I graduated high school, I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew one thing was that I wanted a husband that I knew would respect me. That was very important coming from my grandfather, who would constantly abuse my grandmother. So my dad always told me, like, find someone that will respect you, like never lift his hands towards you and stuff like that. So that was definitely the number one for me. And then I obviously knew that I wanted someone that would just make me closer to God, where my kids would grow up in the church. Ideally, obviously, an Adventist husband. So those were my like top priorities. And so once I graduated high school, like I knew that's what I wanted. And yeah.
So just let me follow up really quick. So after you graduated high school, you didn't date anyone who didn't fit that category anymore?
No, I kind of just once I graduated, I kind of was in a different mindset. I was studying full time and I was working 2 jobs. And so I don't know, it just never really dawned to me like I need to find a boyfriend now. I kind of just let it happen. Yeah, I just let it happen.
All right. Pastor Ben, what about you?
Man. So before shift happened, my first like real girlfriend was my freshman year of high school. And I mean, we dated, I think if you add it all up, I think we dated like just over maybe like 8 months or something. But in between that time, she cheated on me with a friend of mine. So I was like, what is going on? Like
So
ninth, yeah, 9th grade me didn't know how to handle it. So like I just started running a lot. Like the day it happened, I didn't know what to do. So I just like put shoes on and I ran like 5 miles. So I just ran and ran. Sophomore year, I met someone else. That's the person I dated the longest. And we dated like a year and a half, something like that. And she didn't treat me that well either. Like I don't have like hardcore proof, but I am like 98% sure that I also was cheated on and that she was like gaslit me into like the next life. And then what was tough with that too was like her parents, like her dad was really rude. And I thought about it a lot. Like if I were to diagnose him, I think he had bipolar because like he would just kind of switch for no reason, no apparent reason at all. He just like we'd be watching a movie, the whole family's there, And he'd like pause the movie and be like, "Get out of my house," and like be like super upset about it. I was like, "Oh, okay." And, like, so I would leave.
Okay.
Yeah, it was weird.
Pretty.
Yeah. And then I didn't really date after that in high school. I graduated. I went to Southern, and then the dating there was it never like I never had a girlfriend in college, but like would go on dates. Like we'd start to talk, and then things would fizzle out. Like I had this huge crush. I'm like in love with this girl that I worked at summer camp with, and like we used to spend so much time together, like going on walks, going out to eat, studying, like calling each other. And I'm like, yo, like he likes me too. I like told her how I felt, and she was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know where that's coming from. Like, no, like we're just friends. I was like, bro. So that's after that is really where the switch happened. Then after that, I was like, I don't want to waste any more time. Also, I missed a big thing. My senior year of high school is when I finally like developed my relationship with Christ, and then things changed. So that's why I never had a girlfriend again at Southern, because I was very much like, no, I'm trying to like do like the Lord's thing. I'm prayerful. Right? But even in that, I was wasting so much time because I was just trying to put myself into, trying to figure out what I want. But anyway, after that girl that we would do all that stuff together, and then I was like, I don't want to waste any more time. And so I started praying this like real specific prayer that like changed everything after that. Like things were just going like, like they were moving very quickly after that.
Okay. What was that prayer?
So the prayer literally was just, so again, I felt like I had wasted so much time and just like been like strung along. So I prayed this prayer that was like to the effect of, God, I want to live in your will for like my future and that future, including a spouse. So if I liked someone, if I felt like, I have feelings for this person, I would pray, God, if it's your will, then open the door. But if it's not your will, then just shut it immediately. Like break my heart if you have to, make me feel sad, but like do it, because I don't want to do this anymore. Right. And then what started happening is like, after that, like things just started, like I said, like within 24 hours, every time I would pray that, and I mean, like, not like I prayed it all the time, but there was this girl and I, we went on dates, and I prayed the prayer, literally like it was almost 24 hours to the minute. One of my friends was like, bro, like we just saw her totally like making out with this dude. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, like it was like, and I was upset about it at first, but then I was like, no, but I asked for this. So like, it didn't bother me like it would have before. So then another one, we were going some dates, and basically the same thing. Yeah, that she was with some other guy, and then they started dating. So I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. Like I asked for it. But the worst one is probably the one that you remember from church, and everybody at church was like, what is he like? There was this one time I started having feelings for this girl. I prayed the prayer 12 hours. A mutual friend was like, dude, I got to talk to you. You don't realize, but you're not, when you text her or whatever, like you're not just texting her, you're texting like a group. They are all just kind of seeing like what they can get away with. So, and I was like, what are you talking about? They were like, remember that time she texted you to meet you at the soccer field and you went over there? And I was like, yeah. And she wasn't there. I was like, yeah. I was like, well, they were over in Halsey, like looking out, and to be like, dude, we got him to come to the field. Like, and so I was like, that's crazy. But like, thank God that I didn't, you know what I mean? Like God helped me out on that one.
12 hours. So Raquel, did you have a specific prayer that you were praying once you kind of made that shift? And even I guess at some point you you were working and in school, but you were like, okay, I really do want to have a boyfriend. Did you start praying any specific prayer to God about that?
I don't recall having a specific prayer, but
Mhm.
I would just pray like, God, like I'm really busy. I'm focused with school. I'm working 2 jobs to help pay for school. Like whenever you think the time is right, like you put that person in front of me. Cause like throughout high school, like I was constantly, I mean, I wouldn't go after the guys, but like if they showed up, I'd be like, hey, yeah, I guess you're cute. Let's know each other. But like once I was in college, you know, you see all these like cute looking dudes, but I'm like, I don't know who you are. I don't like, I'm an introvert. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
So, you know, I kind of just like, God, I'm kind of busy right now, but if you see the time is right and, you know, then sure, go ahead, put him in front of me. But I didn't really have any really specific. I was kind of chilling and waiting really. I was just like, whoever you throw, I'll go after, I guess.
And Raquel, did you have any like criteria other than you mentioned Seventh-day Adventists and like they respect you? What other things were you looking for? Or were you just kind of like, if they have those two, then everything else is cool?
So I guess I didn't really have many, but most of it was kind of like personality character wise.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's like what eventually I found in Ben later on. It was just like these small little stuff that like I never thought would be something that would like touch me emotionally. But it was just, I guess, they're sitting in the back of my head. Because like I was the one that told Ben like I love you first. And that must have been, we probably were dating for maybe not even a month. But like I had already, like I knew I had that feeling in me and I knew. Yeah.
Ben, were there things that criteria that you had, a list, if you will, whether it was written or not, that was like, if these things, then she's out of here? Or
Yeah, so kind of going back to the 2 girlfriends I had in high school who like cheated on me or like did me dirty, like and I mentioned like they gaslit me, both of them, you know. I remember after I broke up with the one whose dad was kind of angry a lot, I was upset. I was sitting in the car and like my dad he was driving, I'm in the passenger. He could tell like I was upset about something. And he's like, what's on your mind? And I just like made this random declarative statement because I had been like mulling it over. I was like, Dad, the woman I will marry will be the woman who can say I'm sorry if she's wrong. And I like went back to my like, and he was like, okay, like, and so like almost at the top of my list was that really like,
wow.
was just, and it's such a random thing, of course, but like, oh, well, not really random. It's important. It's just, so a lot of people are like, how did you know that you wanted to marry Raquel? And my whole thing was like, after our first fight. Which usually people are like, what's wrong with this guy? But it was because, and to be honest, I don't even remember what it was, but I just remember like Raquel had done something that made me feel some type of way. And I articulated it to her and she was like, she pondered on it for a while. And then like she came back and was like, okay, you know, I'm sorry. I realize this is how that made you feel. And like, this is what I'll do so that that doesn't happen again. And I was like, bro, my entire life, I've never had someone say, I'm sorry to me. Like a girl or a woman. Like,
Right.
It's always been like, well, the reason I did that was because you this or because that. And I'm like, bro, not. So she did that. And I like text my dad. I was like, Dad, you know, what's happening, Dad? Like, I don't know how to act, you know. I don't know what to do from here because I didn't.
I found her. That is.
That was like there, you know, and there's other things, personality, of course. You got to be able to get along and whatever. But like, that was the thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we kind of talked about the shift, but I want to spend some time there because, okay, so after you kind of decided, I'm only going to do it this way, God, if you see the person, and Raquel kind of already answered this because she was kind of just like, God put him in front of me. But I want to talk about that period of time before you, I know, but everyone doesn't know that you all met each other in high school, but your relationship didn't start till several years later. So what about that time period after you're like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm just going to let God pick? Raquel, what was that wait like? How did you feel during that time when maybe it wasn't happening as quickly? Or now let me just qualify. Everyone can see that they're young. Some of us have been waiting longer than they've been alive. But but the wait is not necessarily about time. And that's one thing that I want to stress. Like, whatever is going on in your life, if you desire it, however long you have to wait is your experience and should be validated, regardless of if someone else might have to wait longer in time. So I just want to acknowledge that. But go ahead, Raquel.
Right. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What was the wait like for you? Like, how are you feeling after you, okay, I'm not doing anymore, I'm just going to wait on God, but then maybe it wasn't happening as quickly as
right. So when, obviously, like Lorraine said, Ben and I, we've known each other since, I think we met junior or sophomore year of high school. He went to FLA, Forest Lake Academy. I went to public school. So we never went to school together. But we really started talking was about 3-4 years
Junior
later.
Year of college, yeah.
But so once I graduated high school, and so basically, I guess let me rewind. I was thinking about transferring to Southern because I wanted to go to have an Adventist education. And the only way my parents would allow that was, moving out was to go to an Adventist school. Because I wanted to come to UF. They're like, no, you're not moving out until you're married. So Adventist University, Southern it was. And Southern back then, maybe till today, I don't know, they had that thing like you go to Southern, you come out with a husband. I was like, hey, that's my place. And so in that time frame of graduating high school and thinking about transferring my credits to Southern, it was kind of hard. It was kind of hard just waiting because I didn't know what to look for, because I felt like, will I ever find someone? Because I'm not putting myself out there. The guys at my church, we don't have any. And the only guys I'm around with are the guys here at Valencia or at work where I worked at Disney. And obviously I'm not looking to be dating them. And so I just started thinking, like, what if I never get married? Because I have a best friend. She's never dated because, she's still like, I believe that guy will come. And like, great. But I was also thinking like that too. And then like when you're Brazilian Latino, your parents kind of expect like, hey, you're 23. Like at your age, we were married. You were born when I was 23. I'm like, good for you, Mom. I'm not there yet. I don't even know what I want to study yet in college. So it kind of felt like a bit of like pressure being put onto me. My grandmother is a person with a lot of faith. So she was always praying that I would marry a pastor. Now, my grandma, I have no idea where you think I'm ever going to find a pastor here in Orlando, unless if I go to Southern Adventist school. And which is crazy how, like, I say this to Ben all the time. It's crazy how God like plants stuff in your life and you don't even know it until years later. Because my grandmother has been praying that prayer since I was in high school. And I'm like, Grandma, I don't know how am I going to ever find a pastor to marry? Like, it's not going to happen. And then years later, when Ben meets my grandmother, she's like, are you studying to be a pastor? And Ben's like, yes. And then she looks at me and speaks to me in Portuguese, Raquel, he's the one. So it's like to me, like, yeah, I was nervous. I was like, Lord, I don't know where I'm going to go. Where are you going to take me? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you, and I'm just going to be patient. And I know this is going to suck. It's going to suck. It might be long. I don't know. But I just gave it to the Lord and hope something would be.
All right, Pastor Ben, what about you in that time after the last kind of bad situation, and then Raquel, what was the wait like?
So Raquel said she was going to come to Southern like the very beginning of my junior year. And so she reached out to me like, oh, I'm trying to go. And so I responded back like, oh, like, keep me up to date with how that goes. Like, I know the process can be whatever. And so I then went, like, all those stories I just told you about, like, I started praying that prayer junior year. So like all those other stories were like within 24 hours or within 12, like I was trying to find other people, and like Raquel was just whatever. Like I wasn't thinking that way about her.
Right.
And so we started doing this thing where we tried to keep like a Snapchat streak going. And so I would pose a question of the night, and it started off like super easy, like Apple or Android, or blue or green, like what's your favorite color, just to keep the streak going. And then we'd end up talking, just continuing like, why did you pick Apple? And because blah, 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 blah. It began to become more and more like intimate, I guess is the word, where like, then we'd start saying like, what are your goals for the future? Like, like what does love mean to you? And like, what is, what's God's role in your life? Like stuff like that. And at this point I started saying like, man, Raquel's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And also at this point I had prayed that prayer enough times that I still had faith in it because I saw it working in front of me. But I started to just see it as like a bad omen. I was like, every time I pray this prayer, God is like, don't pull the girl right now. So my roommate, who's a real godly guy, he saw me one time like snapping back and forth Raquel, and he jumped down from the bed and he was like, so who's that? And I was like, no one. Like, don't look at it. He's like, oh, you like her? And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. It's Raquel. It's a homie from Orlando. And he was like, have you prayed about it yet? Because he knew about the prayer. And I was like, no. And he goes, why not? And I was like, because I'm not ready for it to be over yet. Like, I literally had that in my mind. Like, if I pray, then something dumb's gonna happen, and Raquel's gonna, do something out of pocket, and I'm gonna be like, I have to break this off. No,
God, no.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I haven't prayed about it because I don't want it to end yet. And his response to that was like, that's really stupid, and you should pray about it. And I was like, okay. So I prayed about it, and I literally like prayed. God, if it's not your will, close the door, close it quickly. I don't care if it hurts, but if it is your will, keep the door open. And then I went to bed and was kind of like, goodbye, Raquel. Like, because I knew, like, I was like, this time tomorrow, like something dumb is going to happen.
Over.
And then she just kept messaging me. And I was like, okay, I must have prayed the prayer wrong. So I prayed it again. Like, God, I don't know if you heard me the first time. Like, take her. Do what you need to, like, get her out of here. And she just kept messaging me back. And I'm like, I don't understand. So it got so bad that I actually went to the chaplain at Southern and I was like, I need help. And she goes, what's the problem? I was like, I have lost my connection to the Lord in prayer. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Are you serious?
I'm 100% serious. And the chaplain was like, what is the deal? Like, what's the problem? And I told her about the prayer. I was like, listen, I've been talking to this girl and like, I pray this prayer, like, God, if it's not your will, close the door, take her away. But if it is your will, like, keep the door open. And like, she's still around. And the chaplain was like, that's really stupid. Like, the chaplain was like, you're being really dumb right now. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, you can't talk to me that way. Like,
rude.
And she was like, say it again slowly. Like,
right.
It's not your will, but if it is, keep the door. I was like, oh man, like I never got this far. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do. And so, yeah, then the story kind of goes like, then my friend was like, yes.
And then the story goes like this.
Yeah, basically, yeah. From there, my friend, another friend of mine, he challenged me. He's like, listen, like now you got to like send her a text in the morning or something like good morning, beautiful, because if she's not feeling it, like she will shut it down. And I was like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
So I did that. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, hey, oh, and I was like, oh my word. Like, yeah. So yeah, the story progresses from there. But Yeah.
And they get married. And they live happily ever after.
Yeah.
So, as usual, we're running out of time. We love the story, but so I want to ask you all a final question.
Mhm.
Well, maybe Raquel can answer one and you can answer the other. What lesson did you learn from your process of like just leaving it to God? Because, a lot of times as Christians, we hear that, oh, just put it in God's hands, but we don't really understand necessarily how to do that. So what did you learn about that and how did you do that? Raquel, I'm going to go with you on that one.
Oh, with me? I don't know, Ben. I think this will work better with you.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think like a lot of times that those prayers don't get answered is because I don't think that we actually mean it. Like,
Okay.
God, I want you to take control. But then you're like, but not like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like a little more to the center and like over here. And like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like when I say something like this, it almost sounds like a works oriented way of going about this.
Okay.
But I hope that doesn't come across that way. But like by the time I started praying that prayer, like I 100% meant it. I was like, I literally don't care if you like take my heart out and like throw it against the wall. Like I just don't want to waste any more time.
Wow.
Like I seriously didn't care. I was like, I want you to take control. And I think at that point he was finally like, okay,
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty, as Roberta said, that's good real. All right. Okay, Raquel, then you're going to get the last word.
All right.
But I'm going to say, I think that's a pretty powerful statement that I don't care what you do. I'm leaving it to you. And that's hard because the reality is sometimes what God does is not so much fun. It really kind of sucks sometimes, and to be able to say like, I'm just going to leave it to you and you're going to work it out that's pretty significant. And I think that you're right that a lot of times we say it, but we only like 75% mean it, 50% or maybe 80%, but really have to be 100%. So Raquel, one thing you would say to people who are listening, granted, we all know most people on here may be waiting longer than you waited, but the wait is the wait. You feel what you feel. What is the one thing you would say to people about who are still waiting?
It's hard, and it's kind of like what Ben said, and I don't know how long you guys have been waiting. I know someone said I think 6 years. And it kind of sounds cliche also just to say patience, but the Lord knows what's best, and it might be today, might be tomorrow. It's kind of like what I was saying before. I had known Ben since high school, but I had never thought that our paths would cross by me reaching out to him and being like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Southern. And even when I had messaged him, like I wasn't being like, oh, I'm gonna text Ben because he's gonna be my husband. Like, no, I really wasn't. I was really trying to get an Adventist education and maybe find a guy there. And so it's just the way how God like plants a small little seed in your timeline that years down the road, that little seed will come back and be like, hey, like
Here's
it's
a
me
treat
type of thing. So, maybe obviously like we can't see what our future holds, but God can. And maybe that person, that like seed has been planted years before in your timeline and you just don't know it yet. And it's just coming. Yeah.
That's good. That's so good. Well, I first of all, thank you very much for sharing. And when we say to the audience, when we talked yesterday, because I always talk to people to kind of see where we're going to go and the questions I'm going to ask. they shared a lot of other things that I think are valuable, so I probably have to have them back. But I think that the value that they brought, as far as talking about that concept of waiting and really trusting God in a way that is almost considered radical, that radical trust in God, that no matter what he does, you're going to let him do it because you know that he ultimately has your good in his mind. So I just want to thank you all. Unfortunately, they have to run because they have board meeting, because that's how we do. But if you all could just in the chat give them applause and thank them for being here. Thank you all very much. And we're just going to finish up after. Yes, so someone's already saying part 2. So that happened when we had Aram and Sandra on as well. So yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have
I love those.
part 2. But thank you very much. And thank you for challenging us to even step out in a way that is maybe not comfortable and probably won't be comfortable, but that God knows what is the best thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. So I'm just going to go over a couple of my takeaways from that conversation. Waiting is hard, but we've got to focus, and we also have to give ourselves grace, because sometimes when it gets hard, we get sad or we get distracted, but give yourself grace. In Isaiah 40:31, the Bible says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." And what's interesting about this verse to me is that it doesn't say that those who wait on the Lord shall get what they want. It says that he shall give them strength really to keep waiting. And so we have to learn that we never know how long God is going to have us waiting for whatever it is that we are asking for, but that he does know what is best. The second point is to believe God. Numbers 23:19, God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and will he not make good? We really have to believe that God really does have our good in mind. Like he really does have, and I'm going to share, that famous Jeremiah 29:11 verse shortly, but we really have to believe it. We can't just think it or hope it or wonder it, or we have to believe that God's way is the best way, because that's the only way that we can get through the hard times, because there will be hard times. There will be times of waiting that are way longer than we anticipated. And so we have to believe every single day. We have to wake up and believe that God is not he hasn't lied. He does have the best for us in mind, and that his whole plan is perfect. Let it go completely is my third takeaway. Job 48 verse 8 says, "Would you indeed annul my judgment? Would you condemn me that you may be justified?" And this is God talking. And a lot of times we do try to annul God's judgment by not letting it go. Or like Pastor Ben was saying, that we give some, but then we don't give all. And so we're saying, God, well, your judgment is good on this, but not on this part. And in order for us to be justified, we basically condemn God as being not for us or against us or not doing the best thing. And so we really have to let it go completely. Whatever the thing is that we're asking, we have to give it all to him. And number 4, recognize that God has our best in his mind. Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. That is a beautiful promise that is not just for the children of Israel then, but for the children of God today. And so remembering, now let me tell you, this isn't easy. We've said that waiting is hard, especially when you don't know when the deadline is or when the thing is going to come. It's one thing if you say, hey, Susan, let's go out to lunch next Wednesday. Well, that's not hard because I already know it's going to happen Wednesday and we're going to meet at noon, and then that will be. But when you're just like, oh, let's go to lunch, and there's no date and there's no time and there's no, you don't, it's just, and of course that's a superficial waiting, but there, you just have to keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And so we know that but if we wait with the perspective that God does know best, then, and that he has our best in his heart, then it makes it a little bit easier. And final thought, Psalm 27, 13 and 14 said, I would have lost heart unless I had believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. So I want to encourage everyone to wait on the Lord. Give it all to him and let him show you whatever that prayer you're praying. Let him show you that his goodness. I know I have been very much in the place where I have lost heart, and then I have to re-encourage myself that he knows he knows what is best, and that he is good. Satan will constantly bring those thoughts that God is against you and God is not, and God is withholding. But wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. I just want to share something with you as we close here. I first started, and Susan was there the first time I ever spoke at a retreat, and I loved it, and God has always blessed those opportunities. Well, I've decided to create an opportunity. I've decided to plan a retreat, not a virtual retreat, because if I don't have to be talking on a computer for the next 100 years, then I'll be okay. I know we still will have to do it, but if I could do something in person, then I want to. So we have Camp Kalakwa here. I don't know if I'm in Florida. I don't know if any of you have ever been there. It's one of our beautiful Seventh-day Adventist campgrounds. And I'm going to plan a retreat where we will be doing 6 sessions on preparing for the partner you desire. We want to make this very affordable, and it will be very affordable. I was out there today, just getting the information, but I really think this is something that we can do. It will be in May. That's the plan. But before I kind of secure everything, I really would like to know if people are interested in doing that. People would be welcome from all over. Of course, we have a max number of people just to keep it, not too overwhelming. I'm thinking no more than 50. And we've already looked at accommodations, and they're great and all of that. The food is amazing there. But if you are interested in coming, like, you don't have to commit right now, but if you're interested in coming, I would love for you to please email me. Let me take this off the screen. Email me at support@asinglemission.com. Let me know that you are interested. And I can start getting some people, like I can start knowing some numbers, and then we can see how we go from there. There's not a lot of time for us to plan it, pretty much 2 months, because it's like the weekend of Mother's Day. So for those of you who may have plans for that, it is the weekend of Mother's Day. It's the only day they have open, but I don't have any children. And, a lot of the I know there are single parents, but this would be for adults only, obviously. And really it's going to be for women only. So it's kind of like a single women retreat. And so please email me and tell other people, like you can share this with whomever. Please email me, let me know if you're interested, and we can kind of see some real numbers and then start planning from there. Thank you for being here. Our next episode will be Loving Wizerr So You Can Marry Wizerr. And we look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry Wizerr. God bless.